I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I know that our secretary's not here tonight. There's a lot of illness going on and whatnot, so, and we have a couple of members that are also out ill, but did anyone out there have anything they wanted to address us about? Because there's nobody there to ask if they want to sign up for public comment or anything. So if anybody, along the way, if you have any questions or comments, please just get my attention and I'll let you have the floor. This is a workshop, and there's a couple of things we have on the agenda tonight. And the first one is a presentation regarding senior privileges. And I know we have some very nice people here from the high school, including a very nice young lady that's here to lead this from the student council of the high school. Carrie, if you don't mind, can you go to that microphone, make sure the button is pressed, and please, just for the record and for the people on TV, you can tell them who you are.
Hi, my name is Carrie Larson. I'm the president of Mount Student Council, and I'm here to address the idea of senior privileges at the high school. So what we have proposed in front of you is the senior privileges, which includes the ability to come in late when a structured resource falls first period, the ability to leave early when a structured resource falls last period, the ability to use your student ID as a hall pass instead of an agenda, and lastly, be able to use the lounge when it's needed. So we listed the criteria as well. We were just asking to open up the conversation about it.
Before you open up a conversation, for those who don't know, because I know at least two people near me do know, the structured resources, in essence, the study periods, a non-class. I mean, it's not a regular course. Is that correct, Jen?
Correct.
Okay. So when you're talking about those things, in essence, to put it in terms of most of the people who are here, so they can relate to when they were in school, if they have a study hall, you can come in late or you can leave earlier. It's the last period. Correct. Actually, Mark, before you, I'm going to just make my comment that I made to you.
Be nice.
I will. I'm sorry. Just for the sake of the school committee members, this is here, Carrie and the high school administration are here as a courtesy to present to us what they're looking to implement as a pilot going forward from this year. Is that correct?
Correct.
And it's not here for us to alter, change, or vote on. There's no action required by this committee with regard to what's taking place. It's something the high school is taking care of through the administration and student council and the student population. So I'm sure that she would welcome comments, questions, and whatnot, but we're not here to dictate to them what they are doing. Is that possible?
Well, you worked at it. Anyway, I already spoke to you, Carrie, so I'm just going to speak for the record. I think this is a great idea. I told you they used to have this here in the 80s. It was a wonderful thing. The seniors really enjoyed it, and I think it helped school spirit tremendously. So I'm all for it. The only concern I have is the low grade. I'd like to see it up a little, because you need to work for it in order to have it, and I think that that's appropriate. So I'd like you to consider moving that up just a little bit. Otherwise, you have my full support. Go for it.
Thank you. We're certainly open to discussion for changes as necessary.
That was the only thing I saw. That was the only thing I saw. I mean, I remember when my son, it was a B average, but they did things, they graded differently then. So really take a look at where the students fall, remembering it is a privilege, and surprisingly enough, students tend to work harder when they are able to get those kind of privilege is they like being trusted. And that's what you're doing, you're trusting them to be adults. And so I think it's a great idea. Thanks.
Diane?
Yes, and you know, this worked in the 70s too, when I was going to school here. So, we called it the part-time student club. So I have a couple of just questions. Are there block schedules, are there block periods in the thing? And if a study hall falls in blocks, we have a larger amount of time, would in the future, I understand this is a pilot, you want to take things slow, possibly open up to having students leave during the school day and come back if they're, that's something to think about. You do have block scheduling?
Yes.
Yes.
No, I'm laughing because I made that comment myself. I think that I would have said I'm all for it, even if it included right now leaving in the middle of the day.
Right. What was that store up at the top of the street? We used to just walk
That
up.
was Julie's Lunch.
Julie's Lunch, yeah, that's good.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Down.
Anyway, I too also would like to see the grade a little bit higher, but still little. You don't have to go all the way up to, yeah, but a little higher. And I had a question about D, under the criteria for eligibility, have no more than 2 or 3 unexcused, et cetera, during a given quarter. So what happens if I'm a sly one and I hold all my tardies for the last end of the quarter? Do I get a fresh start the first day of the next quarter?
Essentially, yes, that's what it's saying. So that includes all tardies to class, and all like that. So it's very hard to just build those all up because most people do have the tardies, but we're doing the positively functional campus, which is why that number is so low.
Okay.
1 to 3 is all that would be allowed.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming, Carrie. My question is, did you and your group come up with these particular issues, and or did you get them from other schools and you then worked on it? How did you do research on this, or?
Yes, we did do some research. Originally, it was just an idea that thought of the student council, and we came up with ones that we thought would be reasonable that we could get. And so from there, we did the research and listed as the high school east from Shenandoah Central High School, which is in New York, and they have all of these senior privileges for their seniors. And I reached out to them. They said it works extremely well. It gives students a reason to strive in school.
Well, this is, I'm very impressed with it. And thank you. Like the others, I also agree that I think it should probably be at least a B. That's my own personal observation. I think if you want to create an image and also something that would make someone work a little bit harder to get into, that really makes it a personal thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. A couple of curiosity things. Students will use their student ID rather than their agenda. What difference does that make?
So the agenda they have to carry around is kind of big. Most people lose it, forget it, and the student ID would be a lot easier. If you have it on a lanyard, you're just able to carry it through school.
A little more convenient. Okay, wonderful. Well, also, who is the lounge intended for? Is it a lounge intended?
The lounge would be intended for those seniors, and so we were speaking about how it used to be in the library, we could do it there, but originally it was going to be when the main entrance switched to the mall entrance, they would go into where the main entrance is now, but we're not sure when that will happen.
Okay, just one more point. It's more of an administrative thing with we've got a security system in the high school and students going in and out. There's something you guys are going to have to, fine tune that as time goes on. But the only thing that really, like everyone else is chiming in, that really raised an eyebrow, everything else looks fine. I mean, it's all right, but the C- thing really stuck out to me. So it's something that you really need to earn, you can work for. C-, well, I don't know, could be a little bit higher. We'll see it.
Thank you.
Right.
Ms. Larson, thank you very much for presenting this to us tonight. Like my colleagues, I fully support this. two things, and it goes along with what my colleagues have said. Again, the grade point average, I'm in favor, like Ms. McBride and Mr. Saviano said, of at least an 80%, that would be reasonable. And maybe on D, for criteria for eligibility, pick one of those, 1 to 3. Is it 1 or is it 3? Just make that clear so that everybody understands that it's 3 or it's 2 or it's, so that there's no ambiguity. But I think it's great. I agree. I think it's going to provide the students with a little bit of incentive. It shows trust, and that trust needs to be earned and maintained. And I think it's a great idea, and I support it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, thanks so much for the great presentation. Yeah, I have 2 questions. One is I am not familiar with the civic and social expectation rubric, so I just was curious about that and if it's like a 1 to 5 thing, and so you've determined that it would be 3 or above, or how that works. And my second question is also around the maintaining a C- average, and I think my comment is less, it should be higher, and more just how did you determine that would be the average? And also, I guess my one comment about that would be that I think there must be students who are working really hard who might get that average, and so I wonder if effort and other things like that are taken into account in those cases.
So the grade is actually based off the sports. You're allowed to have a D or an F. And so we said that a privilege needs to be higher than that. So we bumped it up to a C. And so to be eligible to play a sport, you need to, if you have a D or an F, you start to go to the after-school program for athletes. And so we wanted it to be a privilege and a right, not a right. So people have to earn that. We're certainly open to discussing it being a higher grade. The civic and social expectations, that's based on a 1 to 4 rubric, and that's given out by each class in each teacher. And so they grade you based on like how you act in class. And so a 3 and a 4 would be acceptable. And that's also how it is at KMS for the purple pride cards, as I'm aware. They're allowed to have 3s and 4s to be able to get those pride cards.
Any more questions?
Yeah, I might have heard you say it, but I'm not sure. You know, everyone chimed in, including myself, on the C- thing. I never asked, what was your rationale for it?
It's based off of, for academic eligibility at our school, if you have a D or an F, that's when you become ineligible. So if you have 2 Fs, you become ineligible. If you have a D or an F, you go to the after-school program. So we wanted it to be a bit higher than that. So we raised it to a C, because we want it to be privileged.
Okay.
Just one more quick question, thank you. So this is going to be done quarterly? That's the expectation? So would they have to, a student that falls below whatever that required grade point average is, would they need to then reapply for the privilege at that following quarter? Or is there some kind of study hall like there is for athletics to bring them back onto the privilege? How is that going to be addressed?
So
Or do you know yet? You may not, that's fine.
We don't have it set in stone, but I can give you my ideas. And so I was thinking, so we did say midterms, it would be looked at as well. So your grades would be looked at each midterm. So that is going to be addressed. And if you fall under at that midterm, you would have to reapply. And so there wouldn't be an additional study hall since it is just a privilege. It's not saying you're failing. So you would have to get it on your own, have that responsibility to regain your privileges.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
No, it's great.
Carrie, I want to thank you for, bringing this forward and pushing it. I think I've said to you separately, and I'll say it here because I'm slightly opinionated. I would like to see more, not more restrictions, more privilege. I'd like to see, as has been expressed, what was done back in the 70s and 80s, I wasn't here in the 80s, so I can't say what was done.
He was here in the 70s.
I was trying to avoid that comment, but that's okay. But I don't see anything wrong with if your structured resource falls within the lunch period, being able to go out for lunch. Julie's lunch isn't there anymore. And so I'm hopeful that, I'm hopeful that once it's implemented and it shows some good progress and whatnot going forward without any major issues, that you'll be able to proceed and get additional privileges for the seniors. Because I know that the administration is just looking to see what it's going to be like going forward. So I wish you a lot of luck in what you're doing, and just stay on top of it and keep asking.
I just want to, sorry, Terry. I just want to echo Chairperson Silva's comments. I'm very proud of the presentation tonight and all of Mount Hope students. I think this is our second school committee meeting where we had students presenting their voice. So it's a testament to the caliber of students that we have in our district, our students, our teachers and administrators for instilling a culture that empowers our students to have voice and agency. So really proud, and we had our conversations and how your advocacy for privileges or more voice impacts the culture of the school. So I couldn't be more proud of you and your classmates for this presentation. I know it'll be successful because it's owned by the students, and that you'll make sure that it's not being abused. So great job tonight, excellent.
And one last comment, though. If there's anything else down the road that you or your council want to share with us, please feel free to come here. Contact me ahead of time. I would love that even more so I can place you on an agenda so that you can be in front of us and inform us of whatever it is you'd like us to know. I welcome it. I think everyone here does. You didn't get, from what I can decipher, you didn't get one person up here saying, what do you think you're doing? Are you crazy? Not one of us said that. So, again, congratulations and thank you.
Thank you for your support.
Dr. D?
I just wanted to say really quickly for the record that we've been talking about this for a while now, and I've been saying to the students that have asked about it, put something together, put together a proposal. I completely put it in their hands, and you can see what they came up with completely on their own. So I just want to say I'm very proud of them as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kerry, in regards to what the Chairperson Silva said, if you did come up with some other privileges, maybe you could, for those other privileges, maybe have a higher grade, so that the folks who are in that category that is qualified would have something to work toward. Just a recommendation. People like to have things where they say, oh, I'm in B category and that type of thing. Just that's all.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is a budget presentation. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Andre and to Pauline. But before I do, I'm just going to make a comment, if I can editorialize slightly before you start. Since last Thursday, I've listened to, seen, and read a number of very interesting questions being proposed by people out in our community. I'm happy to see the questions. I like the fact that people are paying attention enough to ask them. But it was very apparent to me that there's not a lot of understanding. So I'm hoping that some way, somehow tonight, some of those questions and either misunderstanding or misinformation can be clarified so that it can satisfy those inquiries or maybe spark some more. Because the more people we get interested in our budget, the better it will be for the system, for the community. Pauline.
That was a perfect segue for me, thank you. So my presentation tonight is going to be two-part. The first, I'll address the budget book, and the second part, I will address some of those questions that were raised Thursday evening. I have our newest accounting clerk, Patrick Buckley, who is also a Mount Hope alum here, to walk us through the budget book and the parts of it. It's not just a budget book, it's more of a resource for all of you. So I give it to you once a year under the guise of a budget book, but there's so much more information in there, and that's the part I'd really like to share with you tonight. So if you have it available through your Google Doc, we can start with the budget process. And again, I'll make it quick, being mindful of the weather. So the budget process, the documents that are in there is just our school committee policy, and then the work from the government GFOA, and our work with the, Patrick, you can go on to the next one. Our work with the Alliance for Excellence in School Budgeting, and how we use the tools to set our goals, look at what's working for us, match it to our strategic plan, and then create a financial strategic plan that will enable us in the long run to meet those goals. Okay. We don't expect anyone to read that from there. Patrick, if you could go on to the enrollments, which is the next section. So in the enrollment, we pull the data from RIDE on October 1st. The first part of it is by the district level, and then you have it at every school level. What you see there is our enrollment by grade level, by resident community. You see the free and reduced lunch numbers, the number of students on an IEP, the number of students on a 504, LEP, et cetera, So and then at the end they give you 3 years worth total. So you see the current year, 17, and then 16 for a comparison. And then you have all the data by each location for each school. So, midway through the year, if you want to know how many boys and girls we have at our elementary schools, it's even broken down by gender. As well, and we can go through that pretty quickly now. Okay. I give you the enrollment history going back to 1994.
Only hang on a second.
Just a quick question. Is this, Pauline, is this data available publicly, like on the RIDE website or the district website?
Yep.
Which website, where can you see that?
So the enrollment data should be part of, I'm not sure if that is open to the public. The enrollment data, or is that just us? Okay. So, and the budget book, it's in Google Docs right now. I'm not sure what part of it is on the district website, but certainly we can put it all up.